When you first heard the diagnosis, it rips your world apart. You think you're living in a bad dream that you wish you wake up from. And you see it on TV. You hear it from other folks, their child, but you never think it could be your own. And then when the doctor said, "We think it's cancer," it does. It literally just rips your world apart.
When you get the diagnosis that your child has cancer or any serious illness, probably the first thought that you have is, what are you going to do to beat whatever they've been diagnosed with? Second thing is, where's the best place to go get the treatment? So for us, we realized that we had to leave home to go get the best treatment for Cole, and that best treatment happened to be 700 miles away in New York City. So you start thinking in your brain, how am I going to get him to where he needs to go? How am I going to keep life as normal as possible, if there isn't normal? And you do it. There's no backing out. You commit 100%, 110% to whatever you have to get done to save your child. Whenever you get hit with a diagnosis, you instantly become a specialist in that particular diagnosis. In fact, the doctors will actually say to you, "You know more about it than I do," because you keep up on the latest treatments. You keep up on the latest therapies that might be out there, anything that's new.
I've been working as a volunteer in pediatric cancer for the last 7 years. And in parallel, over this time, I also watched the explosion of virtual reality become mainstream. And the first time that I personally experienced VR, I can remember it so clearly. I was training on a Navy ship and it got so immersive that I forgot that an entire camera crew was filming me. And I quickly knew that yes, this capability with virtual reality technology would be amazing for gaming and to be front row at concerts. But I also immediately thought of the kids. Because a lot of people don't realize that when the kids are coming in for treatment, those days in the hospital are very long. When it's radiation, chemo, or surgery days, it gives me chills just talking about, because they're there for so many hours. And I, as a visitor, I come in, for a few hours and I don't want to leave and they don't want me to leave. They're oftentimes coming from thousands of miles away, and you say, what else can they be distracted by?
Most people don't realize that when patients and their families come to a cancer center for treatment, the care is very time-intensive and also can be complex. It's not uncommon to spend the entire day in an infusion center just to receive chemotherapy. And then if the patient experiences any side effects to treatment, this can lead to extended in-hospital admissions. So you can easily see how all of a sudden the hospital can become like a second home, which I think is particularly difficult for young children and their families.
The hardest thing for me was to just watch them go through everything, because I found out what happened when I was just 8 years old, and I didn't know what CAT scans or what chemo was, and I didn't understand what neuroblastoma was. I think it forced me to grow up faster, because it's hard to see people that you love and care for have to go through something like that.
I think VR can be such an incredible distraction technology, and that's what we're experimenting with in pediatric cancer hospitals across the country. Instead of being in chemo and radiation and waiting in the hospital for long, long hours, it's probably the worst possible situation that you could think of. Why not put them underwater diving with whales, on a roller coaster, in a beach setting? That's awesome. This is just the beginning of what we're starting to gather with how successful VR really can be. The next phase for us is to actually put data around the hardware of the virtual reality headset. What that's going to allow us to do is to get the breathing, the heart rate, the metrics from the child back to showcase that yes, these trials with virtual reality, whether they're getting an MRI scan or whether they're just waiting in the hospital, the headset is helping them significantly just maintain a very pleasant and a much more happy environment. You take them away from that hospital environment. Even further, what I think could be really cool is, we have this hardware coming out these days that is so easy to use and to create your own virtual reality. Years ago, you'd have to have hundreds and thousands of dollars to make something in VR. Now, I can actually pop something on my iPhone and make virtual reality content. If I can incentivize the kids, and they always tell me, I want to be in the jungle, I want to be in a petting zoo and create my own virtual reality. Well, especially when they're having a rough time and I go in there and they're not eating and I'm trying to get them to move, trying to get them motivated. If I can get them motivated to create their own VR content and get them up off the bed, how awesome would that be? And now they've created something high tech too. They can take that back to their classroom when they're out of treatment and be able to have some bragging rights. I think the future of VR and pediatric cancer is very bittersweet, I think is the perfect word, because yes, it's probably the worst environment that you could think of, but also here's this technology. Sometimes people always diss technology and say, oh, are robots taking over? Where's AI going? But here's a perfect example of, I think, the human heart and technology coming together to make something so positive.
Cole would want for me to have a normal life and try to just keep going with everything, even though he's not here. Just try to not think about that and live in the present and not in the past. And it's weird without him being here, but I've learned a lot, but I'm happy that he told me to do that.